We need to find this place or we'll be late.
Make a left on Astrology Avenue. Oh, I'm sorry, I meant right. It should be right here. 444 Spearway. Oh, turn.
It looks like Renee. Yay, we're on time. The James and Kellee Show.
Great, let's start the show. Hi, sweetheart. Welcome back.
Thank you so much. It feels so
great.
good to be here, to be alive and alive. Frankly.
Wow.
And I just really
great.
wanted, thanks, honey. Everybody was so kind to me. They were like, sending me all kinds of love and prayers and energy. And I just want to thank every single one of you guys for all of that. It was really something. And I've really felt a lot of love from everybody. So thank you.
And Kellee was away for how many weeks? For 4 or 5?
3 months. 3 months.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I was actually from the beginning of August until we're almost 3 months.
Wow.
Close to 2.5 months.
Wow.
Yeah, and I won't even be back in my office until really the first week in November.
November, right?
Yeah.
Right. Wow. Well, for those who don't know, because I know for a long time, Kellee was resting, and Kellee was, but Kellee went through major surgery, and I didn't think it was my business to tell people. So, Kellee, we leave it up to you as I let my dog in my room because I locked the door.
Well, I definitely want to talk about it, and we'll talk about it, but I think we should go with the astrology first. What do you think? There's so much going on astrologically.
Yeah. Well, we've been through everything, so
we've been through. Oh no! We have been through. Oh, look
That's
at
girl wants to say hello. She does every day.
Oh, you know what? She matches your top.
Well, she matches everything. It's so funny.
I love it. She does.
Go to your Betty.
Hi,
Go to your Betty.
girl. Go to your Betty.
Goes right to her Betty and she stays there. Lay down.
Look at that. Oh, she looks so sweet, James. Oh,
sweetheart. She's yeah, that's another issue. So a lot of people have been dealing, we all know, with the major astrology like stuff. And you did tell people this. You told them a lot about the stuff going on. But a lot of people, and we talked about this morning, I said it feels like pushing boulders up a hill. It was like really hard for a lot of people. And weird stuff happening. Weird stuff. So where have we been and where are we going, Kellee?
If I take the analogy of the boulders up the hill, okay, because that's a good one. Imagine a boulder up a hill and it starts to crack and fall.
Yeah, that's right.
It's going to be
and you lose your stepping. You lose your stepping also doing it.
Absolutely. These are some really intense times. As I said months ago, that this second half of 2022 would be really the intense time. And I'll say this, there are about 10 very large events that some have happened already this year and some are going to occur, but that we have left for the remaining part of 2022. But what's important about that is we have 3 major events around the corner in the next week. So I thought in the next week and a half, we have some major events. So I thought I would start with this. And what I do want to go back to is something that happened on August 1st, because on August 1st, I kept talking about, and now I'm using Vedic astrology here, but I kept talking about this triple conjunction of Mars, Uranus, and Rahu. And I kept talking about that. And I said, it's going to be a very intense time. I didn't necessarily mean on that day, although it certainly could have been, but I meant for months coming. And so that began this process that I'm going to talk about today, and really, which is the subject of me today. It's really about the growth of your soul. So we're in a time period of growth of the soul. Now, the first thing I do want to talk about, which is a good thing, is how I always, James, talk about Arcturus.
Yes.
And I know I'm an Arcturian. It's a amazing, bright star. It's the 4th brightest star in our galaxy. And for the next 3 days, it started yesterday, and then today and the next 3 days from now, 2 days from now, the sun and Arcturus are lined up together. And so we're going to feel this amazing energy that comes in that is, I would say, a positive. I would say it's compassionate. It's a lighthearted. It's a psychic ability. It's all kinds of good. So this is a good thing in the next couple of days. We're going to be today, tomorrow, and the next day. Should be.
I started feeling a little bit of the lightness today.
Okay, so a little bit. So tomorrow maybe more, and the next day maybe more. And I take advantage of this energy because then we're going to get hit with some big ones. But this is a but.
So
This
celebrate while you can, kids.
Celebrate, and isn't that the key to life, though, right, James? Because you honestly never know what's around the corner. I don't care if you're a psychic. I don't care if you're a medium. It doesn't matter, you know. And
experience,
right. So anyway, I wanted to talk about that. And it's a really special energy. And so I go outside. Of course, it was snowing here on the farm today. But I go outside and get this special energy because even if it's just for a few minutes, it's just a really, really good energy. Okay, so let's start. I'm going to talk about 3 things, and here we go. The first big thing that happens this coming up is on October 24th. And this is Saturn squaring Uranus directly. And this is at Saturn stations direct. Now that means Saturn's been retrograde. And it stations, meaning it actually stays still on this date, on October 24th. And it's in Capricorn at 24 degrees. And it's very intense. And it's squaring, so like squaring off Uranus, which is in retrograde in Aries at also 24 degrees. This is a very intense time. And if we go back to what I said about August 1st, August 1st was also Aries at 24 degrees. So this is a degree that historically moves mountains. When we talk about boulders, this actually, there was a time period when this same conjunction happened in 1988 and brought down the Berlin Wall. And so this is a very, very powerful time that we're going to be in. And we're going to see all kinds of change in the government, in a lot of things, well, more than just government, but in our person, yeah,
this might change.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
People's.
Absolutely, and it will cause in people. You might feel during this period of time a lot of stress, anxiety, restfulness. Yeah. So, but
welcome back, Kellee.
Welcome back. I know. See, I'm back. But I will tell you this: what makes it really cool here is that a good part of this is that this is a time to do self-expression.
Okay.
So let's say you've kept in so much to yourself. This will be a time you will not be keeping things in at all. Actually, remember, we're all growing here. Our souls are growing. And this is going to be a major transition. And you'll see the next few months, very, very intense time, because this is the 4th and final square, James, of this Saturn squaring Uranus. And it's a major deal. Here.
I just heard in my head, it's going to be a time for forgiveness.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Well, it's funny you would say that, because I'll tell you the next thing. Here, you're right on time with this, because on October 25th, the very next day, this begins eclipse season again, right? So eclipses are known to trigger personal and global events. And this is a solar eclipse on October 25th. It will be seen throughout Europe and Asia and Africa. We will not see it here in the United States. But it's a new moon eclipse, and I go by Vedic astrology, everybody, and it's in Libra, and it conjuncts Venus, which means it's next to Venus. It's a very powerful, powerful eclipse, and it's about, to your point, it's about finding peace and balance and justice, which the world will probably go pretty crazy over this. However, what's important about this, because it conjuncts Venus, it's about relationships. And so this eclipse, in my mind, this eclipse is all about soul contracts with relationships and or work. So you may find yourself like recalibrating or clearing up or renegotiating old patterns in relationships. And this energy is so potent that you might be able to heal those really old, difficult, lingering heartbreaks. You know how so many people carry that heartbreak? And this is the time for great forgiveness, for great healing, and of the deepest cellular level, healing is possible during these periods of time. And it's a great time for that.
Yeah, I just heard waves of forgiveness will be possible.
Oh my God, I love that. And James, the mantra for this, and you can write this down, is everything is working out for my highest good.
And when things happen to us, we've talked about this. Everything when things happen, somebody gets stuck in it. We're like, why could God do this? Why does this have to happen? How could this be? We don't see the bigger picture. And we're going to talk about today is responsibility, but it's also what I've learned from the situations I've been through the past month. It's like see the bigger picture. You got to see the bigger picture. There's a divine source here,
Oh,
really playing out, and we humans
yeah.
don't understand all of it because we're kind of hidden behind that veil. But there is a bigger reason behind everything.
Right. And somebody asked today, and I wrote it down on your show. They said, can you connect with your guides when you are ill? And I thought that was such a great question because, of course, you can, but the human part, starts to panic and do all kinds of things. But it kind of goes with what you're saying here. I mean, there's a bigger picture here.
This is very interesting, Kelly. I didn't tell you this yet, but next week, everybody, I'm doing a workshop with Lynn Probert, and she's flying over from England. A good friend of mine, and some of you know of her.
She's terrific.
It's incredible. We're doing a 5-day workshop, and that's on vanprog.com. There it is. Experience the Power of Love through meditation, and it's going to be a good one. It really is worth it doing if you're interested.
Yeah, it's a great one. I did it years ago. It was great.
Yeah, beginning or advanced doesn't matter. But Mavis Patella, a good friend of ours, passed over, who's a very well-known medium, and she's come in my mind every once in a while, and I've said things, and she told me 2 days ago. She said, "James, if I was a teacher now there, I would have which I'm going to use during this workshop. The first time I'm going to use what she was talking about. So I'm like, John, what Mavis is telling me, you must work with them to clear their minds." Prepare the minds for mediumship. Prepare the minds. So I'm going to do that in this workshop. I'm going to prepare people's minds because she was so adamant. She said they missed a big part in the earth. They didn't prepare the minds. And she said that's a major part of success of mediumship. So in this workshop, I'm going to do for the first time, I'm going to do exercises and mind journeys to open up that space and have people realize that there's more to this. It's out here and live in that from the bigger picture. The bigger picture. We get so stuck when things happen to us that we don't realize it. So now, should we go into your journey?
Yeah, the last astrology, and then I'm going to go into the last one is on October 30th, and I'll be talking more about this next week. But Mars goes retrograde. That's a powerhouse. So these are 3 big events, and I'll talk about that next week.
That's a war planet.
It's a war planet. Yeah, we're headed in a very challenging.
I'm just concerned about nuclear war. I really just have a concern.
I am too, James. Yeah, I am too. These are rough planets.
Yeah. And I wanted to change the macrocosm. We're going to change the microcosm.
Yeah,
so we're first going to change our inside of ourselves.
Yeah.
If we want to forgive the world, we got to forgive ourselves.
Yeah.
If we want the passion and love out there, we first got to love ourselves. So we got to first take care of the microcosm in order to get the macrocosm.
Absolutely.
I have to do it. So Kelly's been on a journey, as we all have, but Kelly's been on an intense journey.
Oh, I have.
You've been on a very intense journey.
Very intense.
Very insightful. And we've discovered along the journey, there are certain things that Kelly was made aware of. I was made aware of. We shared. And anyway, Kelly, would you want to start with?
I will. And this journey.
The responsibility of being a light worker, responsibility of doing this type of work. And living life, I guess you could say also, not just to being a medium or a psychic or a therapist, but life in general.
And as you know, I came out of the womb feeling responsible. So responsibility has been a big issue for me my whole life.
Kelly is a responsibility. Right?
Yeah, I mean, it has been large in my life for a long time. But this part of the journey started actually 15 years ago. And here's the story. And I'll say this part briefly, but 15 years ago, when I was 50 years old, so I know it was exactly 50, I was 15 years ago because I just turned 65 during all of this craziness. So when I was 50, I promised myself I was going to have a breast reduction because I thought this would be the greatest thing. I'd had terrible back problems and neck problems and shoulder problems, and all my doctors said, you really need to have this surgery. So I signed up. I get a great doctor in Los Angeles. I was going to have the surgery. And 2 days before, my mother, her hardware, I should say, in her hip burst out basically. And she had to have emergency hip replacement surgery. And at that moment, I obviously canceled my surgery and went into caregiver mode. And I took care of my mother for 5 years. It was a really big time in my life. And during that period of time is really when I discovered taking care of my mom with her and her patients, actually, because she was a psychologist, that my mother said, I think you should go to grad school. And that's when I went to grad school. So that period of time was interesting, how you think you're going down one road. I was in working medium, and the universe had another plan for me. So that was 15 years ago. All right. So then at 55, 5 years later, my mom is better. I meet with another doctor. I sign up. I'm going to have breast reduction surgery. And unfortunately, I take my mom to get a mammogram, and she ended up with breast cancer. So I cancel it, my breast reduction surgery, and I go into like crisis mode, and really doing everything I could possible to take care of my mother, everything I could possibly do. And still working as a medium, and now working as a therapist and taking care of my mom. It was a lot. Okay. Then my mother died of breast cancer, and we moved to the farm
How
in
long
Wisconsin.
ago was that, Kellee?
She died 4 years ago.
4 years. Wow.
4 years ago. I know, right? Hard to believe.
That's hard to believe. Okay.
So at that point, we moved to the farm. And then I said, all right, I'm back to myself. I am going to have this breast reduction surgery.
I've been through this, everybody. I've heard this for years now.
Yeah, right. You'd heard me say it for years. Okay, so everybody had. And I'm like, no, really, this is the one. So I have this fabulous doctor here in Madison, Wisconsin. And I'm so happy. And I'm going to get it done. And I meet with him in January of 2022. And he said, great. I'm sorry. Yeah, 2019. I'm so sorry. Of 2019. And we set the appointment for April of 2019. I'm sorry, of April of 2020. I'm getting it mixed up.
COVID.
And COVID hit. So now 3 times I'm out of this. And I'm like, you have got to be freaking kidding me. I cannot get it. There was nothing I could do. All right. So then 2 years of me taking care of the world. And James, we worked our asses off during that time. And I really worked hard during that time. And I thought, I have to make the time to have this done. So I met with the same doctor who I just love. And we made the first time I could get in for this surgery was August 17th of 2022 of this year, just a month and a half ago.
Astrologically, did it look okay?
So it's a funny thing that you would say that. So what I did is when that date became available, and it was the first date, in my head fast, quickly, I did the numerology of it. And I said, well, it's a 22 day. Now, 22 means the builder. I said, well, I will be rebuilt. Okay. So I took it. I didn't look at everything else because I felt this was the day that was presented itself, and I was going to take it because I had already 3 times said, turn this, couldn't do it. So I said, I'm going to do it. And I remember I ran it by you, and I ran it by my friend Charlene, and everybody was kind of like, really? And I was like, yeah, I'm going to do it. Yeah. Now, during this process, as we got closer to August 17, I started to feel some sense of, I don't know, it's like an anxiety, but I'm thinking, well, that'd be normal because I'm going into surgery. So that would be normal, right? And then it almost felt like some sort of a doom feeling is what I kept feeling. And I was like, no, Kellee, it's just get that out of your head. Seriously. So I go into a surgery center. So not the hospital. The first time was not in the hospital. It was at a surgery center. I meet with the doctor. And for some reason, as we're about to go into surgery, I blurted out to him, I don't want to die. Did I even tell you that? I said that?
Yeah.
And then he looked at me and goes, Kellee, you're not going to die. You're not going to die. He's very calm. He goes, you're not going to die. You're a perfect candidate for this. You're this, everything. You're healthy. You're this. Everything is fine. I said, okay. So we went into surgery. I have the surgery. He comes out. He tells Dawn everything is good. I spend the night in the surgery center. The next morning I go home. You called. You said, I just want to hear your voice. I remember that. And everything was good. and a few days, 3 days later, Mavis died, actually, 3 days after that. So now it was around the 20th of August, I think she passed.
Wow, what's her name? Died first. Janet.
Well,
Died.
Janet died just 5 days before my surgery, I think. Yeah.
I know. And then Mavis passes.
And then Mavis died, and that really shook me to my core when I found out that she died. I was just devastated, really. I mean, we both were just devastated.
Yeah, we both were. Yeah.
So then I was so emotional over that, I kind of lost track with how I was feeling. It wasn't because of that. I, as a caregiver, never really, as much as I would like to say I take good care of myself, because I do a lot of really good things, I don't really listen to my own body. And I really wasn't listening.
By asking you this, because you say to take care of yourself. But as I've always said, we all have to have balance.
Yeah, I had no balance.
The spiritual body, the emotional body. And I don't think your emotional body was in balance, because
not at all.
Care of people, your moon in Cancer, take care, and continue. So the emotional body,
I was definitely not balanced whatsoever. And I was also not really attached to my body in the sense of that I knew if it were you or Don or my mom or anybody, I'd go, okay, get her to the hospital. She needs this. But for my own self, I just couldn't quite put it together that I actually was getting sicker and sicker. So several days, and they said to me, the doctor said, if there are any changes, here's my cell. If there's anything, call me. But I felt like I didn't want to bother anybody. I'm like, oh, no. I'm fine. I'm just tired. I just had surgery. But that's not what happened at all.
So, and after you had the surgery, and a day later you came out of it, and then when did you go home? 2 days after that?
No, that day. I went home 24 hours later. I went home.
Okay. And when did you start feeling not good?
About 3 days later.
And when you say not good, you felt nauseous?
I felt, I wasn't not in physical pain. I just felt tired, James, tired. But then I kept saying, well, I'm tired because I just had surgery. I'm tired because this is a big procedure that I had. I was just tired. And then I just got more tired. And then I thought, I don't feel well. So I did go to see my doctor at my appointed time. It was kind of funny. I should have gotten my ass in there right away. I mean, that's how much out of touch I was. I went to see him, and it turned out that how do I say this the right way? I didn't have my veins weren't connecting with the blood process, and I needed to go back into a second surgery. And it was, and I had dead tissues, and it was, yeah.
And they couldn't find that at the surgery? They couldn't find that? You had?
No, not during the first surgery. No. First surgery, everything was fine. And I will say this about this type of surgery, for breast reduction surgery. There's a 14% to a 52%, 14 to 52% chance that there'll be a minor complication. I had major complications. Okay. I was like the 5% club you don't want to be in, right? So I had to go into a second surgery. So this time it was in the hospital. So I go into the hospital. I have a second surgery.
And that was to what? Get rid of the dead tissue?
Of the dead tissue.
Bring more blood to your tissue?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So I go in for that. And I was very, down, because now I have to start all over again. And it was hard, and I'm scared. And again, I blurted out, I don't want to die. He's like, oh, you're not going to die. This happens on occasion. It's okay. Okay. So I have the second surgery. Then I get home, and I think I was in the hospital 2 days that time. Then I get home, and about 3 days later, 3 or 4 days later, I don't feel well. And I really don't feel well. I'm tired. My breasts are like on fire, like something's going off here. And I realize, then it finally hits me, oh, I think I have an infection. So I call him, I go in immediately, and he says, Kellee, here's the thing. And I go, oh no, I know it. I'm going to have to go back in the hospital. And he goes, yes. He said, I'm going to give you an opportunity. He said, you can go home with antibiotics. But I said, if I were your wife or daughter, what would you say? And he always asked that question. And he said, I'd put you in the hospital right now. He said, where's Dawn? So we go get Dawn. I was in a hospital bed for my third surgery on that fast. This was now September 9th. And I was in the hospital with intravenous, 48 hours of intravenous IV with antibiotics, heavy duty antibiotics. And here's what happened with that.
Could you eat while you had the?
If you didn't want to, yes, I could eat, but I just
didn't have an appetite for it.
No, I really didn't, and I was scared. I was. Well, I'll tell you when I got to the despair part. So he comes in and he says, "I'm sorry, we have to do the third surgery. I've checked all your vitals and your blood work and your tissues, and we have to go in because you have an infection." So now it's a third surgery. And James, he goes, and it's going to be tomorrow, which was September 11th. And I'm like, September 11th of all the days for me. I do know this. That's not a good day. So
no.
I'm like, oh, Lord. So anyway, I was just feeling that night. I was feeling the night before this third surgery, I was feeling so much despair. I just can't even tell you. I was so worried. And so when that woman asked about, are your guides there when you're ill? Yeah, I knew my guides were there, but I was having such a human crisis of just scared. I didn't want to die. And I was feeling doomed.
That was the big thing when you told me, you kept on saying, I don't want to die. So you're not going to die. You kept on saying, I don't want to die.
I'll tell you when you jumped in, you had said that all along, but I'll tell you what happened with that. Okay. So I was just feeling such despair, but the wildest thing happened. My hospital room, the door opened to the left. And at 10 o'clock the night before my surgery on September 11th, I felt this stare, somebody walking towards me, towards the right, but it was just a window. And I felt this, and these arms went around me. And I turned around and I said, Mom, I'm telling you, my mom was right there. And I was like, okay, it's going to be okay, right? And she's like, it's going to be okay, Kellee. So the next morning, when my doctor comes to get me for the surgery, he walks in and my guides clearly wanted me to see this because I was really out of it, feeling despair, depression, upset, worried, out of my mind. And he came in with this giant swatch of green all over him like this. And it was to show me his aura of green as a healer. They really wanted me to see that. And I went, oh, okay, now I'm okay. And that gave me the energy to go in to have the third surgery. So I have the third surgery and I'm thinking, oh God, just let me, please, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. Anyway, I come out of the third surgery and then some man comes in back in my hospital room, and I was in the hospital for 10 days. So then this man comes in and he goes, hi, I'm Dr. blah, blah, blah. And I go, what? And I go, what did you say? And he said, I'm an infectious disease doctor. And I go, oh my God, do I have COVID? And he goes, no, you don't have COVID. You have a bacterial infection. And I'm like, oh, what? This nightmare is never going to end. So I go, what kind? Like staph or strep? He goes, I don't know yet. We have to figure this out. I'll know in 48 hours.
The staph infection.
Well, here's what happened. So I'm in the hospital. I am now plummeting down because I am thinking, oh, the surgery didn't take me out. Bacteria is going to take me out. The doom I felt, I can't even describe. And I couldn't pull myself out of it. I just couldn't. So anyway, he comes back 2 days later and he says, I go, what is it? Was it staph or strep? He goes, well, actually, you have 3 bacterial infections. Okay. Now I know I'm doomed. Like nobody's business. I'm doomed. So I was like, well, okay. And at that moment he leaves and I'm so depressed. I'm sobbing. And a nun walked in. And now I'm like, oh, I'm dead. I'm a goner. A nun walked in. I was in a Catholic hospital. I go, oh, I'm a goner. I'm a goner.
To give you the last part, yeah.
And I'm crying and crying.
That happens, yeah.
I'm crying and crying. And she goes, dear, tears are the words that your soul speaks when you don't have the words. And I'm like, oh, I have the words. I'm dead. It was just terrible. So she leaves. And then you called and you didn't say hello. You said, you're not going to die. That's what you said to me. You said, you're not going to die. it was exactly at that moment.
I was driving down the street and that came into my head. It's like, I'll call her right now. And I think it was your mother. You're not going to die.
You said, you're not going to die, Kellee. Now, then you said, we're all going to go sometime, but you're not going to die from this. And then, I mean, it was unbelievable. So then after that, I was in the hospital. I was on, intravenous IV forever with antibiotics. And then finally I was allowed to come home with oral antibiotics. And I was on that for over 2 weeks. And then after that, I mean, all of this was really, really a difficult situation. And it took me all this time to recover.
And did you look into your chart and see what was going on, the aspects in your chart that were happening that caused this?
I don't have the balls to do that.
Really?
I don't want to.
I haven't done that to see what aspects were in the sixth house. And I mean, hello.
The eighth house of death.
Oh, the eighth house of death.
I will. You know what? I will do it. I will. I don't think
of medicine, right? Sixth house is taking care of healing,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
I just feel your sixth house was loaded with stuff.
I will look. I'm sure it was. I mean, and I will look, James. It's so funny. No, I didn't.
You're not. Believe me, you're not going this early.
Oh my God! So it was a hard thing to do, and I think as a caregiver, caregivers tend to go from crisis to crisis, and yet I was having my own crisis, and I hadn't really experienced. I've had a lot of crisis in my life, but this was a different.
Besides, you're not going to die. There was something else that came to me very clearly when I was driving my car. I'm driving my car, and it was Remus and Remus, the foxes, and Latin, and suckling on their mother's teats.
Oh yes.
And I said to you, you can't nurture the world, Kellee. Enough already. You just give, and you have nothing left, and that's what's literally happening. Because you have to have boundaries of not giving so much, because there's got to be boundaries. And that's for all of us caregivers and light workers. It's got to be moderation. Everything's got to be in balance.
And that's what I learned from this whole thing. That's what I learned is they had to show me in a dramatic way.
Sure.
To get my attention. And they got my attention. They totally got my attention. It forced me to stop. Yeah. And to take care of myself.
And the universe will do that. The universe will force us to stop in order to listen, to stop and pause and take heed. Same thing happened with a mutual friend of ours, came out to visit, and she was going out to dinner, and she fell right in front of my house, broke her hip, broke her arms, and ended up going to the hospital, and then ended up going to rehab. And I was with her every day, and she was go, 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 double Gemini, go, go, go. And it was an amazing experience for her. At the end of it, she said it was one of those amazing experiences because I never would have realized. And I gave her the book, The Quiet Mind by White Eagle, to read. And she said
it's a great book. Yeah, it's so great.
She had to forgive someone for 30 years. She had not forgiven this person. And it took this time in bed to realize that she had to forgive him. And she did. And I said to her, and I don't know where I got it from, I said, it's not your dirt. I said, you're not the doormat. It's someone else's dirt at that doormat. Don't make it yours. And she uses that analogy. That just came through when I was talking to her. And she said, it's amazing how long you hold on to old stuff and how it affects the body. And sometimes you're going to be hit hard in order to wake up. You got to wake up. And it's true. It's really, really true for all of us. It's very true.
Well, and I know when that happened with Carolyn, it happened during 3 days after my first breast surgery.
Yeah, the 24th of August.
I believe. It was right after your birthday. Yeah.
My birthday was great because I brought her out for the meal, and she got a facial. I got her hair done for her, and
it's amazing. I mean, no, but
that was a long time of holding on to something. And she said it was as painful as it was. Again, he would go seeing the bigger picture. The bigger picture was I had to stop, because otherwise she would never stop to look at to go inside and have the time to be there. Now, this is something interesting. In her rehab place, she's such an innate healer, and there was a lady next to her, and the lady wanted to die, and the lady was having trouble with kidneys, and she would need. 2 days later, I go, say, what happened to your roommate? They left. She left. She said, I healed her, and she did. The lady was fine, and Carolyn was not feeling good. And I said, what's going? You gave all your energy away. I said, are you going to stop? So it's exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
We can't, as natural as it is to give, we also got to realize in this human space, we got to have boundaries. We got to stop. Enough is enough.
It's hard to do that when you've come in this way almost. But you have to, I have to really watch my energy.
You got to
now.
honor yourself. You got to honor yourself. You got to love yourself, honor yourself. And I was like, that's not enough. That's
well,
enough.
And that's the key right here, what you just said. It's, I count too. You know, I literally, as a healer, we count as well. Because have you noticed, I mean, there's almost like a run on healers right now.
Several of our friends have been down and out. And,
several.
I was down and out with my knee. I couldn't walk. It was weird how things happen. It's such a weird way. Yeah, a lot of our friends got double hip replacement, which I don't know how that turned out.
Well, actually, it turned out that
she just died.
One. Yeah, we had 2 friends die. I mean, it's
an amazing time. It's about a cleansing.
Yeah. Oh my God. But self-care and self-love, you have to do that.
So what is holding everybody back now? All you guys listening and watching this, what's holding you back from self-care? Why don't you put yourself first? What is the reason why you don't do that? You need to do that. So what is the illusion that you're living? And what is the payoff that you're getting out of this? If you're not living
such a good question. I mean, I'm really taking that to heart, what you just said.
I'm in the middle of writing a meditation course right now. So that's
okay.
I have all these exercises before I got in the show tonight. And I'm thinking about that with people, my exercises. And it's true. What's so important that we don't put ourselves first? And I'm not talking about ego. I'm talking about sense of love and respect for this. Many times in my Catholic upbringing, and I'm watching a great movie, Father Stew. Have you seen it yet?
I haven't. Should I see it?
You got to see it.
Oh, okay.
It's so us.
Father Stew. Okay.
Catholic thing. It's great. The writing is so profound that I have to stop and rewind and listen to the writing because the writing's great. Talking about God, but not the God, divine God. It's fabulous, everybody. But it sometimes takes a while for us to realize that we, being in this human space, and most of us who are light workers and empaths and so forth, we're not used to this space. This is not natural for us. But we got to realize we live in a dense, limited place. And the body, this physical body, is a wall. It's limitations. And the mind creates, so we got to be careful what the mind brings in. Because the mind, it ends up in the physical body. First place it starts is the mind, ends up in the physical body. So in healing thyself, you first got to clear up what's the mind. Like, as I said earlier, Mavis said, in mediumship, you got to clear that space of the mind and prepare your mind. But it's true in everyday life. What are you feeding your body? What are you feeding your body? Anxiety, fear, and that whole thing about, I don't want to die. So what is that about? Where does that come from?
It comes from, I know exactly where it comes from. I still have work to do here. And I'd be so pissed if I had died. I've been so angry. So I have to use that anger instead of being pissed that I was going to die. I have to turn that around and go, wait a minute. No, I need my own space. I need my own time. I need to, no, the answer is no, I can't do this.
And the weird thing about with Kellee as well, she's been writing a book for a little bit now, right?
Like 15 years.
For a while. And then really
15 is very significant.
it's changed though now.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Chapter was all about kind of caretaking and coming in as a responsible person. And then this whole thing happened.
This is my final chapter, you said.
The book never was finished because I had to go through this.
It's really true. And James wants me to put a big breast on the cover.
I did not.
Which would be hilarious.
I never said that. I said
we'll get a good tattoo there. Oh my God. Well, we got to laugh at a lot of this stuff.
Tell them about the boob cake. I think that's the funniest thing ever.
Oh my God. Somebody gave me. Okay,
they probably didn't realize what was going on, right?
Well, she did.
Of course.
Somebody sent me, if anybody's ever seen this, I'll have to get a picture of it. It's pretty funny. 40 individually wrapped boob cookies. 40. I live on a farm. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Give them to the farmers? I mean, I'm like, so I ended up giving them to I couldn't wash my hair, so my hairdresser actually came to my house. That was the other thing. I haven't seen anybody. I haven't, except for my hairdresser. Dom's like, you're not supposed to have anybody here. And I'm like, no, my hairdresser, get in here now. So I gave her the boob cookies. I had a lot of them.
And it's amazing you didn't get COVID, Kellee, because everybody I know is getting COVID left and right. Everybody.
I did not get COVID, and you didn't get COVID either.
I never got COVID. I know I didn't get COVID. People around me, every person around me has had COVID. I haven't seen them. But yeah, it's pretty amazing that everybody I know. Well, Carolyn supposedly had it, but I don't think she did, and she was in the hospital. They put her in a COVID ward, but she was fine.
Yeah.
And she started healing from the inside out. She's such a healer and an incredible person. Carolyn Mumler. She's on my website. Great card reader.
She's incredible.
Incredible. And I swear to you, I was there with her granddaughter at the rehab, and we're looking. And I said, the granddaughter's name is Rachel. I said, do you see what I see? She goes, do you see her hair? I said, her hair is black. When she came to my house, her hair was white. Her hair was black from the right here out. Like, and her face
that's
was
amazing.
like, now I'm like, what? And she said, I think it's the book, The Quiet Mind, the Bible, The Quiet Mind.
So she went internally then.
She went internally, and she was healing from the inside out.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. And I mean, we all saw it. And the people in the rehab didn't want her to go. And she was, get me out of here. They were all crying when she left because she's such a light force.
Yeah.
And, I took her back on the plane. I took her back on first class. I saved all my credit card miles for 25 years. Didn't even use them. And I turned them in to give her one of those pods, first class pods, because she never had that. And I wanted to do that. So we did that. And the flight attendants were hysterical, the New Yorkers. They kept on calling me Carmine. Okay, Carmine, what do you want, Carmine? And at the end, and all the flight attendants, well, three of them, because everyone's understood, they kept on saying, "How could you do this? To bring someone home and go, but then fly back the next day?" And I said, "How could you not? That's how
you were so great. You were so great, James.
You would do it.
I would do it. Yeah.
Do
See, there goes the caregiver.
But it's the way you should, I think.
I agree.
I would do it for an 88-year-old friend.
Of course. Of course.
That's the way you want to be treated. And I got a lot of vodka out of it, by the way.
Always help.
I got a parting gift for you. And I said, what's that? It's Sheila or Cheryl. She goes, here's some vodka and orange tomatoes. She said, well, okay. Said,
oh, my God. That's so funny.
You never know when you're going to be put to the test. You never know when you're going to be needed.
You don't.
You never know. And every day you got to be very pleasant. I go to the dog park every day with this one over here. Mm-hmm. And it's so interesting. I go and I observe. The moment I open the gate, of course, I'm observers for the dogs, but also the humans. And it's very interesting how people are so different. And today I was there and some lady said, oh, night dog. She wouldn't even speak. I'm like, okay. And so, yeah, it's really interesting how people are. But
oh, yeah,
you got to accept people wherever they're at. I wouldn't judge them and just God bless them.
Yeah, that's it. This is everybody's saying you're such a good man, James. You are. That's lovely what you did with her. And Renee Hounsel. Hi, Renee. She said selfless gets confused with less of self-care. I use a mantra. I can only heal others to the degree I understand how to heal. Oh, thanks. Love you, Renee. That's very sweet.
Feel that what they want to receive. So some people, it's interesting. It's like mediumship in that they can get a message if they allow it. It's not only to the medium, but it's a participant. If they allow that, if they'll open that space and allow it. Same for healing. There's a certain level where they close down. If they're not going to be open to be healed, then they're not going to be healed. It's up to them.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Oh my gosh. But I mean, it was a very human experience of feeling despair, feeling fear, feeling all of these things. And again, I know better.
Sure.
But during that moment, those moments of deep, it was really like a dark night of the soul. This one particular night, it was like a dark night of the soul where I just felt so worried. For me, it was because I didn't want to die. I would have been really pissed.
Very, very interesting. And when you started coming out of it, that first day, when you said you're 60% better or whatever, was there any, I don't know how to say it, was there a message that came to you, an insight from your mom or someone? Did anyone come to you and say something to you?
Well,
insight into something.
My insight came a little later, and I'll tell you what it was later. I'll tell you now what it was. My insight started to come up through karma, that this was like a major karma that I was working through. And what I got in touch with, and you and I had talked about this, was like warrior karma. Like the name Kellee means warrior. And I felt this rage, like I wanted to kill somebody and attack somebody in the chest. So I felt like it was, karma from probably killing people in the chest as a warrior back in whatever day.
Spears or guns.
It didn't feel like guns. It felt like literally hand to hand with not like Indian, but not Native American. I can't describe it other than that. Like, I just wanted to go kill somebody, like for somebody that had attacked me. And I was just like, And I think this lifetime I chose to deal with that karma because it felt so raw and so deep, something that I had never experienced. I had a head injury and I went through a lot. This was different. This was like a different kind of thing. And the other thing is I'd never spent that many days in a hospital before. By the way, it was awful. I mean, it's not a place.
You got to really learn to surrender, huh?
Surrender was number one. I had no choice. I had to surrender. When
I was with Carolyn in the hospital and the rehab center, every day, I was there every day with her. And I met all the people in the hallway, the nurses. I walked by the nurses, and you had to take a COVID test every moment you went. Every when you did the COVID
I didn't know that part.
Every single day, I took over 50 COVID tests. And, I knew nurses. I helped move beds around the rehab center.
I bet you did.
I did. It was hysterical. And I said to this one lady, they wanted to move Caroline out of the room. Caroline goes, I'm not moving out of this room. And I said to the head charger, I said, you don't want her to move. She goes, well, I said, you do not trust me. She's a witch and you do not want her to move. And she's a New York witch. She goes, please, I'm begging you, please believe me. And she didn't. So I helped her move beds around. And so she's a force to be reckoned with. So, but yeah, I would pass by the nurse's cart saying, how's the cart doing today? Because they'd bring her food and say, and what's for me? Hey, hello.
You have such a good energy about you doing things like that.
Someone's down, you have to bring them up. I remember I was in the hospital as a little boy. I spent a lot of time in the hospital as a little boy, and I was isolated. There was no one around me. I thought if I could ever have someone here to help.
James, that's tough.
2 years old for 2 months in a hospital, and by myself and my
parents. For what was the problem?
I had a cyst in my neck. And,
oh my God!
In those days, and I knew at the time, this doctor said, "Oh, it'll heal." And I said, "It's not going to heal naturally." He goes, "Yeah, it will." And I said, "No, and my smile's going to be off," and it is. And in those days, it was Manhattan Eye, Ear, Nose, and Throat Hospital. I'm like, no one knew any better. And they threw me into and I wrote about this actually, and I wrote about this in a book. And I just recorded the audio a little while ago for this. And it was I was in a tonsil ward. The kids just go and get their tonsils taken out.
Yeah.
They spend for a couple of days, and then leave. And I became friendly with everybody, and then they would leave. Everybody, and they'd leave.
Oh, it's so hard.
And the story I have, which I would like to say, which is interesting, I write about it in the book. This little boy who couldn't find anybody who liked him, and everybody met left, and they all made fun of him. And he met this little boy Tommy one day, and Tom would say, he went to Tom and said, no one likes me because I'm all deformed. Me. And he goes, well, what's your name? I said, it's Jamie. James Prog. And he goes, because I have this little big lump. And he goes, he said, that's because you have so much love inside, it's going to burst out, and no one wants to be around that much love.
My God.
And he must have been 7. It was one of those.
Oh.
I didn't remember that's why I wrote that book. And that, yeah.
So sweet. How long were you in the hospital then?
I was in the hospital. It was about a month, maybe month and a half.
It's a long time for anybody, let alone a baby.
The private room during the weekend. I was during the weekend in the private room. During the weeks, I was in the children's clinic, like children's ward. But I'll never forget that and they didn't know what they were doing. Obviously, they really didn't.
Right.
And anyway, very interesting. That was karmic, also. That was karmic because I think I cut some heads off in past lives. No doubt about it.
We can't get past our karma, can we? Especially with this eclipse coming up.
It happens. That's what I learned. I learned that I liked happy in hospitals and around. And I thought, why don't people be happy? And that was in a hospital. So the whole rehab center, I was just happy, but there were people that wanted to be sad, and they'd want to get out there. Here we go, the victim consciousness. They want to stay in that space, and they don't want to leave that space. And no matter what you can do, you can't get them out of it. And that's not you don't have to get them out of it. That's where they want to stay. It's not up to you to push them out of it. You can present to people as you are. You can live by example, and if they're willing, ready to take it in, they will. If not, we can't do it. And you push, Kellee. You probably push so hard for people to change them and help them. And you got to realize you can't help everybody. God helps those who help themselves.
And that's a great lesson, what you just said.
That's true.
And life is really about taking responsibility for your own life. Like I can give you the tools, I can show you a door, I can do all this, but I can't do the work for you. And for me personally, I did a lot of work for other people.
You can't do that anymore.
Oh, no, 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 no. I gave you the key. Here's the key. All right, goodbye. Here's the key.
Here's the toolbox.
Here's the toolbox. But then isn't that also with, with therapists? You can go to therapy forever, but really? I mean, I understand working through traumas and all that. Believe me, I get it. But then there comes a point where you have to have the tools to do it. You have to be the adult. You have to actually have the responsibility to take care of yourself. Yeah. It all comes down to that.
It's self-responsibility.
Self-responsibility. Yeah. That's things that I've learned.
And self-love, because how can you love another if you don't love yourself? How can you be responsible to other people, not responsible to yourself? Right. Yeah, we got to learn these things. We got to know. And people think just because we're mediums or we know this, we're still the human experience, the human condition. So we have to go through the human condition.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Boy, is that the truth. And Lynn says, laughter is the best medicine. Yeah, I laughed. Once I was on the other side home, like 3 weeks later. Now I laugh all the time. During that, I was like, oh.
And there was a time when I spoke to Kellee, and I said to Kellee, I don't know when it was, right after I got out or last week ago or something. And I said to Kellee, I was on, of course, in my truck driving. And I said to Kellee, Kellee, the spirit world, they are around, they're around you. And she goes, yeah. And I said, oh my gosh, yes. And all of a sudden.
Oh, you got to show him this picture. Okay, you have to say, he goes, Kellee, I know, was it you had a dream or something about the spirit world? No,
I was driving.
Okay, this was, okay.
I have really bad transmit. Well, it's a hard cellular service where I live, right? So I went very slowly, and I went up a street I never go to, and I said, and Kellee, the spirit world is always around us. That, right? And I turned, and this is what I saw.
Can you see that? There's 3 spirits holding hands.
Actually,
he got out and he FaceTimed me. He's like, look at this.
Just when I said it too. I mean, come on.
Literally as you had said it.
Just when I said it. So that's validation.
Look at that. Oh, and we are all taken care of, but we have to have our lessons, and we have to do the work for, around these lessons.
Honor the process, honor the process. It's not easy. Not easy for any of us. I mean, really, not easy.
No, it's not easy. It's not easy. It's not easy, but it is.
Together. No one's ever alone. No one's ever alone. We're always being looked after. And so it's fascinating.
Yeah. Oh, James, it was something. But I will tell you something wild that happened. I will tell you this, and I think I shared this with you. This was kind of weird. On my first surgery, in the middle of the night, it was about midnight, and I was, you can't really sleep in a hospital. I was trying to sleep. I just really couldn't, but I was trying. And I look up and I see this 12-year-old boy over my head like this. He's got long blonde curly hair, and he's kind of just looking at me. I said, what's your name? And he says, Matthew. I said, how did you pass? And he said, COVID. And I said, oh. And then the door opens up, the light goes on in my hospital or in my surgery center room. And the nurse comes in and she says, hi, I brought you your orange Jell-O. And I'm like, hey, I have a question. What was this used for? Like during COVID, what was this used for? She said, oh, this was the children's ward. And I said, oh, I have to tell you what happened. This little boy came by, long blonde curly hair, Matthew. And she said, oh, you saw him? I said, yeah. And she said, other people have seen him. She said, he was my client. He died in this room. I said, oh, well, that's why he was just checking in. I was like, I wasn't afraid. I was at all.
He wasn't earthband, everybody.
No. It was interesting. So then I tell her what I do. Then I tell my doctor the next morning. He goes, did you have a good night? And I go, yeah, the wildest thing happened. This 12-year-old boy showed up, and he goes, what was a 12-year-old boy doing in my surgery center at midnight?
Well, I have a great story. I think I told you to share with everyone before we go. I was getting acupuncture. I think I told you this acupuncture, and I went to this man, great man, named Dr. James Thai, and he's from China. And first I met him, loved the guy 3 years ago. And anyway, he put. I had a lot of knee problems and things going on, so he put needles on my front instead of my back, which he usually does. So I'm on my back, and he puts new needles in me, about 50 or 60 needles just all over me. And energy, he goes, you need energy. Your pulse is really down. I remember Carolyn was here, so I was really giving energy probably. And I was bleeding, plus I had my doggy.
For sure. For sure.
Soon.
Hi, Pearl.
Yeah. So, anyway, so he puts it on me, and I swear to you, about 10 minutes into it, and I usually fall right asleep, I saw beings all around me, and it looked like I was on an operating table, and they were looking down at me, and I'm like, "Oh, who are you?" We're his team. And I said, "Okay," and suddenly, he put one on my third eye needle. It comes out. Someone pulls it out, and I'm like, "Oh God!" And they laid it on my forehead. I was like, and I didn't move. And I'm like, and all of a sudden, my whole body started to shake. And they said, "We're removing the stagnation of your body." That was very, very interesting.
Wow! And you saw his team.
I saw his team. They came back. He said, our vessel will be in. Hold on." And 5 minutes later, he walked in. And I told him, and he goes, "Oh, yeah, they come a lot." He goes, "They removed the needle from my third eye." He goes, "Oh, I see that, because you have too much power there."
Little does he know.
Oh,
he knows.
He knows. He recognizes it. He's a Scorpio, high-minded Scorpio. Great healer. Yeah. So.
Wow.
Kellee, glad you're back.
Thank you, honey. Thank you. I feel so good. I'll be back in my office in about 2 weeks. And I'm sorry for everybody that I had to reschedule. And we also rescheduled our Lemuria and Atlantis for the end of January. And it's just been a lot of rescheduling because this came out of it's out of my control. Yeah. Prajna's having a situation, but there's been a lot of healers down. A lot of healers have been down. So.
Well, God bless you, Kellee.
Thanks, honey. I'm glad I'm back. And next week, you're going to be working with Lynn.
Lynn Probert next week.
Okay.
Mediumship through a 5-day intensive here in Carlsbad.
So wish I could go. It's so good. You guys are going to love it.
And then there's a demonstration the 29th of October in Orange County, California. And that's on my website, benprog.com. You see below. It's
so fun.
We only have 40 people for the demonstration. Only 40 people.
Okay. People have got to sign up because this is
such a 40 people. So
watching James and Lynn work together is extraordinary. Boy,
I had a red book. Oh, the title was, on page 25, there's a marking. That's right. And if you go back to the end of the book, there's a stain there. That's right. And stuff like that.
And she's an outstanding teacher, too.
Outstanding. I think it's
outstanding teacher.
Try to work with. Yeah.
I believe it. She's something else. And you two together are magic. I mean, and the sense of humor that you guys have together. Hi, Pearl.
Really
Hi, Pearl. Hi, Angel Puss. She said, oh, she smiled. Oh, my God. That's so sweet. All right, everybody. James, I love you.
Everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
You've been listening to Both Sides Now and Beyond, featuring spiritual medium and master teacher James Van Praagh and spiritual medium and psychotherapist Kellee White.
That was great. Maybe we changed some lives.
And maybe opened up some minds.
Which way do I turn?
Right. I mean left.
The James and Kellee Show.